because so often what I'm seeing, I mean, you brought up the idea of parents and, my kicking parents' ass a lot. And the reason I do that, going back to this, I brought up earlier, this notion that strong, I have a responsibility for the weak people in the power differential, in the power equation of the family,
right,
are the kids.
Sure.
Why? Not just when they're young, but when they're young, what gets the impression that gets pressed into the wet cement of the child is the parent has all the power.
Sure.
And so that's why it's fascinating that a man can be 45 years old, full grown, 6'2" or something, and still be terrified of his father who's 5'11".
Explain that.
And that's just it. That's the power of child imprinting, right? And so when the child is growing up, whatever message they're receiving from the parent, it might as well be from God.
Right. Sure.
Right.
I mean, it's the ultimate thing. It's the first thing you know. It's you open your eyes, as soon as you even discover your own consciousness, there's only one certain thing, and that's your parents.
That's right. And so it's simultaneously the power of the parent as well as the love for, the admiration for, the belief in. I'll have clients who are into their 30s, 40s, 50s, and they're still questioning whether or not they should doubt their parents.
I totally understand that.
Even though the parent has been hammering them with such negative fucking messaging, but it's just like...
It comes from such a powerful place.
A powerful place and a trusting place. And so when you're a kid or a teen or in your 20s, you just trust that your parents want what's best for you. And you trust that if my parents say it, it must be true.
Yeah.
If my dad says I'm an idiot, I must be stupid.
Right. But as parents, I don't think we even realize, I'm not a parent yet, parents, I don't think they have the realization that there's so much power in their hands and they're molding something that's going to live a long time with that consciousness, with those thoughts, with those ideas. And like Uncle Ben says in Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility.
Indeed.
You can't just go around messing around. I've heard you say something that really resonated with me, which is something along the lines of, one of the worst things you can do to a person is make them disbelieve their own inner voice.
That's right.
And as parents, we have such an easy way to do that.
That's right.
Almost nobody in the world can do that to a child as easy as his own parents can. And we do that maybe by accident, you can call it, but selfishly, I think, because we're selfish creatures. It's not just parents, right? We're all somewhat selfish to a certain extent. And when you don't really think that what you're doing is for the better of a child, you're actually serving yourself, and all of a sudden that manifests in a 40-year-old. That's scary.
That's right. And very often it gets couched in the terms of I am doing it, this is in the best interest of the child, when if you were to give me an hour in the room with that parent and I could dig down, we would see, no, it's being driven by the parent's fears. It's always fear. Everything is fear. And
what are they afraid of?
Well, any number of things. That a parent will control a child in part because I'm fearful that, if something happens to this child, anxiety will well up and it'll be up here in my throat, and so I have to keep this down. So it's fear of something happening to the child, but it's also fear of this child is a reflection of me. So now this is something we see, particularly as a child moves from 8 and 10 into 12 and 14. And so precisely when the parent should be stepping back a little more out of the child's life and giving them their power back, they step in more. Why? The stakes are higher. And sure, that the whole they can get hurt.
In what sense? In the sense that you're my representation in the street, and now you're going to make me look dumb?
That's a big one. That's a big one. Don't fucking embarrass me. You exist to make me proud.
Horrible.
Oh, it is horrible.
I know it's
because fundamentally I'm using the child to get my emotional, interpersonal needs met that I can't fill my own love cup. I need the child to do things. In other words, the child exists to meet the parent's needs. That's an inversion of the equation. The parent exists to pour love into the child's love cup, not vice versa. And I see all sorts of permutations of that, not just the make me proud thing, such as, I wrote an article, it's on my website, it's called Emotional Incest. And that's and parent as best friend. And the travesty of that. And it's where the parent is fundamentally using the child as my buddy or as the person I share all my problems with.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Exactly. An 8-year-old is just, wondering, hey, my pencil broke. Where do I get a new fucking pencil? And you're dumping on him about how your boyfriend left you or how your wife is a bitch or how your finances this or that. So that's one more aspect. So back to this notion of control, though. Parents will control children to get their own needs met beyond even selfishness. It's getting some deep-seated need met that didn't get met back in their own childhood. And so I have to use you, the child, to do that. And it's always, or very often, couched in the phrase of, it's for your own good. I'm doing this for your good. I'm guiding you. No, you're not. You're using the child. And of course, but what's also interesting is we exist
It's a
in
scary thought.
Well, it's a horrifying thought.
Especially because it's hard to fix.
Well, and exactly, and the crime that's committed is what you brought up earlier. This notion that you're teaching the fundamental message that you're teaching the child is don't trust your own voice. You're not teaching your child to listen to their own intuition. Listen to my voice. Don't trust your voice. Listen to my voice. Okay? Your voice can't be trusted. Don't trust how you feel. Listen to what I tell you. So that may feel all cozy for the parent, but when that child gets to be 24 years old or 36 years old and they can't decide what they want to do, why? Because they've been taught not to listen to what they want or what they feel.
Big surprise.
And so the parent is all too happy to continue to exercise control. All too happy to continue to tell you what to do. Makes the parent feel good because now I not only get to live one life, I get to live two lives. I get to live your life too.
Well, there's also purpose in case they lost their own and they're retired and they have nothing to do. Purpose remains.
Well, and that's exactly right. And this is another one, and I've done some TikToks on this, that parents, one of the most crippling things in all of parenting, whether when young or in the middle ages or even in later age of the kid or adult kid, is when the parent is using the child to get one particular need met.
What's that?
Well, one of the questions I'll ask clients who are parents, I'll ask them, what percentage do you want to be respected by your child, and what percentage do you want to be liked by your child?
That's a good question.
And they'll say, well, 100% both. No. In total, it has to add up to 100%.
Yeah, come up with a good
Right.
Come up with an original answer.
And this is based on a question I used to ask coaches that I worked with when I was an NCAA strength coach, because I used to counsel a lot of the coaches, and I would ask them this. What percentage, same question, but vis-a-vis their players, what percentage do you want to be respected by your players? What percentage do you want to be liked by your players? And they would say, 60% respected, 40% liked, or 40%, or 50-50, whatever.
What's the right answer?
Well, let me tell you this. The right answer, let's wait on that. What was fascinating, every single coach to a T, every single coach that I asked that, the percentage that they wanted to be respected was the same percentage, almost exactly, with some variation, as their winning percentage.
Wow.
The percentage that they wanted to be liked roughly equated to their number of losses. Or their percent number of losses. And so
what's the correlation?
What this means, and I would say this to the coaches, if you're wanting to be liked by your players, you are using your players to get your own personal needs met. That's what your wife exists for. That's your husband or your buddies or the other coach.
That's a very good point.
You're using your players to get your needs met, which means there are going to be times when you're going to be afraid to be a coach because it risks you being liked.
Yeah.
And make the hard decision. Okay, so now we transfer that over to parenting. The desire to be liked means that it's natural. First of all, it's natural.
Sure.
Wanting to be loved and get the hugs and the kisses. But here's the thing. One of the chapters of my last book, I titled, Children Love Parents More Than Parents Love Children. And anybody who's a parent fights me on that one until I say a parent will subject a child to things that the child would never subject the parent. And now there are times when you have to be a parent. And see, that's just it. I literally had a client just this morning. And he is struggling with, and he's going through a divorce, and he's struggling with, wanting his children to like him and having to make a hard decision. His daughter may have just contracted COVID after getting vaccinated and has the fever and all that. And daughter's birthday party is this Sunday.
Wow. I hate this being a problem right now in life.
Well, and so think about it. Daughter's looking forward to her birthday party and now may have COVID, so he may have to cancel daughter's birthday party or postpone it. And he feels bad having to look at you, which on one hand, in the world of adult problems, it's like, really, that's it? But when you have, right? It's like, but when you have children, you know this fucking kid that you love so much is going to be heartbroken.
Sure.
And he's terrified
Nothing
of hurting.
worse. Yeah.
Yeah, you're terrified of hurting your child's feelings. And I had to say, listen, this is part of what being the adult in the room is. This is part of what being the parent is. But if you're so terrified of being liked by a 4-year-old, right.
Yeah,
Right.
but put it in context. One second.
Right. And so many people will flip towards it. And I see a lot of it nowadays from my parents' generation where they weren't so concerned about being liked, but doing the right thing. And now it's so many parents want to be liked, or it's way up here on the other side, and so many parents are just plain assholes. It's like we're the parents in between.
Yeah, what's happening with this pendulum? It makes no sense.
Yeah, it did. Exactly. It makes no sense.
It's scary.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So this is a really good point. I've never put it that way, that kids love their parents way more than
They do.
There's an article you put out on that?
Yeah, it's on my website. It's called, actually, no, excuse me. It's a chapter in my last book in There's a Hole in My Love Cup. And it's fundamentally predicated upon the fact that I have so many clients into adulthood who are still kowtowing to parents who have been verbally abusive, mentally abusive, physically abusive, sexually abusive, or just assholes. And they keep feeling obligated to take care of them. And in terms of, I call up my mom every other day, and she chews me out, or it's all about her, or all these things. And they'll keep doing it because, in part, there's this innate love in there, and it gets fused with sort of some sort of obligation. But no, children, and this is why when people are considering divorcing, I'll flat out say to them, they're terrified of the effect that they're on their children, and they should be.
Yeah.
And it's going to hurt them. The two people they love the most are now not wanting to be together. I mean, it wouldn't rip anybody's heart out.
Sure.
And that shows that your child is healthy and normal and so forth. But the other side of it is, so many parents are afraid to end a toxic relationship for fear that my child won't like me, for fear that my child will be mad at me, for fear that my teenage child will say she hates me, or whatever it might be. Afraid of making a hard but necessary kill, so to speak.
Sure.
For fear of my child not liking me or being mad at me. And that's a mark of weakness in the parent. It's like, if you're so afraid of that, I understand you don't want to hurt your children. I understand that. But sometimes we have to make those hard decisions. The story I like to tell.